welcome back to the Nordic Sound Channel. As always, I am your host, Jameson Foster. And today we have with us two members of Gangar, a band that was recently announced for Midgardsblot 2023. They were actually some of the, I don't know if you guys know this, but you were one of the first bands to actually follow me on Instagram. So I've been keeping up with you guys for a while, even before Midgardsblot. So that was a very pleasant surprise for me. And yes, we've got Mathias, who plays the Hardanger fiddle right over there. And then we got the drummer, who is looking less sloppy now with the and he is Henrik Dullum, but I've been told that we just call him Dullum. So how you guys doing?
We're good. It's around 6 o'clock here, so good morning to you, and thanks for having us.
Oh, this is not even close to the earliest interview I've done. I'm pretty sure when I had a Nana Barslev on, that was 1 a.m. for me. So you guys are fine. It's just the life of interviewing musicians on the other side of the ocean. So would you guys like to just briefly introduce yourselves before we get into your actual your music and what we can expect at Midgardsblot this year?
Yeah, my name is Mathias Tedens, or English Mathias, and I play the Hardanger fiddle and fiddle. I'm born and raised in Oslo, Norway, and am now frontman and fiddler in Gangar.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm Henrik Dullum, or in Norway, Henrik Dullum. I'm the only one in Gangar who's not from Oslo area. So I'm pretty proud of that. I'm from Trondheim.
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
in the middle of Norway. So yeah, I've been playing drums for my whole life, and then I moved to Oslo and met this weird guy, and then he introduced me to folk music, and then now I'm the drummer for Gangar.
Awesome. So what is it like being the only one not from Oslo? Is that a usual rivalry?
Well, it can get interesting sometimes, because me and Mathias sometimes have arguments, and when I come up with a great point, the only thing he does is just say it in my dialect back. So yeah,
I love it. I love it when bands from Scandinavia have like people from mixed backgrounds in it, because like another great example is Dreamer Circus. Only one of them is from Sweden, and Alakar, he's from Sweden, but it's Skåne, and the rest of them are from Denmark. And so you've got that rivalry over, well, is Skåne Danish or is it Swedish? And everyone just fights over that. So it's always interesting to keep the dynamics good. So Mathias, when did you pick up the Hardanger fiddle?
Yeah, so I started playing fiddle when I was 9 years old, and started with traditional music from Norway and the US, actually, and just played folk music. And then a few years after that, I got kind of like handed a Hardanger fiddle from my parents, who also play Hardanger and are folk musicians. And then I learned some kind of fairly simple stuff, and then I handed the Hardanger fiddle back, and then another couple years went, and then I got the Hardanger again and started nerding a little bit more, and then I handed it back again and kind of disappeared into Appalachia and played old time.
Awesome.
And I got it handed back when I started at the conservatory where I met Dullum, and since then I've been hardcore nerding Hardanger tunes from around Norway.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I gotta tell you, I've got a banjo back here.
Yeah.
I'm from the outskirts of Appalachia, but I grew up close enough, and always I'm a big bluegrass player on the big bass, and we even have an old time string band jam here in Boulder every month.
Awesome.
So you say that you're into old time string band music, and I could have a whole different conversation about that, but I'm trying to do a better job of staying focused here. So that you got close to detracting me. Now Dullum, how about you? How'd you get into drums?
Well, I've been drumming my whole life. I've heard from my parents that I got this drum. I'm born in January, so for my first Christmas, I wasn't even a year, and I got one drum. I still have the drum in my room, and I just sat there the whole time just playing that. So they sent me to drum school. So yeah, it was a hobby until I went to primary school. Is it ungdomsskole?
I think so.
Yeah, or high school. Yeah, and then I just took it serious, and now That's all I do.
Awesome. Now, I am actually going to ask Mathias one more question about the old time music. I'm actually really curious, like as a Norwegian, what got you into like Appalachian old time music? Because there's so many Americans that don't even know that old time is different from bluegrass. So I'm really curious about that actually.
Yeah. So my dad is actually also a ethnomusicologist, and
Oh,
he
cool.
worked or he used to work at the university in Oslo. Now he's at the National Library, and he runs the folk music archive of
Okay,
Norway.
cool.
That's sort of national archive. And in 2005, he ended up writing, or he was going to go on a sabbatical to East Tennessee State University and write about the youth scene in the U.S. compared to Norway. And then we were there for a while and got back home. And then when we were feeling most homesick for Tennessee, we got like catalogs for various old time summer camps. And that's kind of how we ended up coming back year after year. So I've been to the US pretty much every summer since 2005, just going to festivals, playing. So
Cool. Hell, that is so cool, man. And we're gonna connect later with your dad being an ethnomusicologist because it's very rare spotting another one in the wild. So yeah, that is so cool. Yeah, so how about you guys tell me a little bit about how Gangar came to be? Because the way that at least something that really interests me about Gangar is you guys are definitely in the same vein of music as Hoovendroven, but a little bit more intense, like a little bit heavier too. We'll probably blame that on the Meshuggah loving guitarist. But so I know that there's definitely more to it than just wanting to be another folk rock band. So I'm curious about like how you guys with all your different backgrounds came together to make what we now know as Gangar.
I think I'll tell my side of the story and then you can tell yours.
And then we'll compare notes.
Yeah, then we'll see who's okay. So we were arranging a student festival at the conservatory. And one of the concerts was supposed to be about how far we could take folk music out of its like sort of original state. And I thought, well, let's rock this up. So I asked Dullum and the saxophone player Oscar, who I met at the conservatory, as well as the bass player Jonas and the Meshuggah loving guitarist Richard, who I met at high school and played with back then. So I thought like, okay, these are four really good friends of mine. Let's just meet up, see what we can figure out the next couple of weeks. We'll play this one concert and then we'll kind of, see what happens. There was no plan of continuing. But then that concert got canceled because of COVID. And then we got
No. That's
the
time frame.
So this was October 2020, I think.
Okay.
And then there was like a new shutdown towards the end of that month or that year. And then we kind of heard about another project and I suggested the band, and then that was kind of interesting. And, so that we kind of worked stuff up again a little bit, but then that fell through. But then I got a phone call from the largest folk music venue of Norway, like, hey, we need a warm-up band for Hoven.
No way.
And I was like, yes. And so then we had 2 weeks in the summer where we just basically churned out a whole set. In addition to having found a lot of material earlier and had some ideas, but we hammered that through, and then we played that concert in addition to another concert. And while we were working for those gigs, we realized that there was kind of something to it. And the goal for my part was that this was not about me playing folk music and the guys accompanying me, but more about every one of us expressing ourselves and our musicality within the genre that we're kind of building around us. Not that folk rock hasn't existed, but it was just basically a meeting of our interests and trying to like play what we think is cool. And so far, so good, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, hell yeah. I mean, you guys, you have to have succeeded in some degree already. If like as a folk band with all this boundary pushing, you guys are playing at a heavy metal festival at a Viking museum in a like a recreated Viking village. Like, I'd say you're doing pretty well so far at achieving that goal.
No, we've been really lucky. There was a certain vacuum in Norway, and they needed a band that could play late night in the folk music scene. So as soon as we showed up, there was a lot of interest, like, oh gosh, it might be them, you know. So then we kind of got a certain amount of interest, but then instead of just sticking to Norway, it's kind of kept opening up. So we've been fortunate enough to get to play in Sweden, Estonia, Netherlands, and now we were just in the US, and with plenty more international stuff to come, which is like surprising but wonderful, and like, yeah, we're very lucky to be in this
I mean, and you
position.
know, to your credit, it's not just luck. Like, you got, like, from the EP that I've listened to that you guys just put out, you guys absolutely slay. So there's definitely some also talent into the reason of why things are opening up for you.
Well, don't you call it luck equals preparation plus opportunity?
Yeah,
So,
actually, you're right. You're right. So you definitely had the preparation of the opportunities. Hell yeah, that is such a cool story, because I noticed on your website, it said that you guys have been playing all over. So Dullum, take it away. Tell us your side of the story.
Yeah, so my way into this was, I remember we were at our school we have always 1 week where we only do folk music, and that was the first year we was here, and I remember it was really nice. It was eye opening, and I really got to know Mathias after that week. So then he just asked me, and I just panicked when I heard it. Oh shit, am I going to play folk music? I don't know this. So I used a couple of months to like explore the music, and when we were going to meet, I had my expectations. Yeah, we all just crashed into one group, and all my expectation was like vanished, and then we just had some material. And I think the reason why we're like this is because all of our players come from really different backgrounds. You know, Rikard, who's just like all into the metal scene, just it's technical stuff, the gent riffs and stuff. And you see, I'm also wearing this periphery sweater. I'm a huge fan of them, but I've kind of later years worked my way into more Norwegian jazz rock and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
If you've heard about Bushman's Revenge and Hedvig Mollestad Trio and stuff like that, that's something I really love.
Cool.
And on the new record, we're going to have a tune called Doris Greinländer. It's like my favorite beat to play ever. So it's just a blend between our different genres. You know, Rickard have a lot of technical metal stuff, but I feel like I come with the groove, like the forward motion. I just want to play the grooves over and over again. Yeah, so
it's kind of there's an interesting dynamic where we have the heavy metal, we have the hardcore jazz, we have the more pop funk soul with the bass player.
Yeah.
And Dullum has a kind of like, I would call them gumbo of different types of musical backgrounds. And
I like that.
Here, I mean, I'm a folk musician who listens to rap, so that's kind of like my thing. So it's we kind of probably met like this, but after working more together, we're kind of getting there. We're getting there, and
I did really like the visual that Dullum just said, where you all sort of crashed into each other.
Yeah.
And I also feel like that's a really good description in a good way of the music too. It sounds like this beautiful crashing together of all these things where you're listening to it and you're like, whoa, this works.
Absolutely. And I got that from our first gig we did together. I was really nervous at the start because when I see Mathias play folk music, he's just sitting there with his fiddle, looking at the ground and looking at nowhere. So I was like, okay, how is this live show going to open up? How are we going to get people in? But I got blown away when I saw Mathias as a front man. It was holy shit. That was so I think when we had that first concert, because he'd been listening to a lot of rap and seeing rappers on the solo on stage, huge stages, one person and backing track, and he takes that kind of thing with the band, and we just play on each other and get this ball of energy. I love it. I love playing live with these guys. So
yeah, dude, hell yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you like playing music with them. I would love to hear like how intimidating. I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about how intimidating was it being asked to play drums like with a folk band. Like you don't have a lot of reference, or at least if you weren't in the scene at first and you sort of like got pulled into it, you might have not known of Hoovendruven, where like you actually have some sort of references of how people have put drums with it. Like, what was that process like for you going from this really driven groove based drummer to being plopped into a folk group?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Now I feel like I still haven't figured it out. We almost always play all in 3 or 4, and but in Norway we have kind of rhythms that are not like standardized.
Yep.
They're like shoved away and stuff like that. And I still feel like I can't play that at all.
Dude, I'm right there with you. The Swedish polskas. So when I play bass with the Swedish group, you know, you when you're reading about the music, it's like, oh, it's in 3. But then when you actually play it, you're like, this is like 3.5. And then they always put that half beat somewhere else depending on the region. And just like you, I just play and hope for the best. Like I still don't feel like I actually know where it goes. I just keep doing it until someone says bad.
So your homework is to dance it.
Yeah.
You need to dance it.
We do that's actually the biggest thing we do here is the dances. Our fiddlers that I play with are primarily dancers. So we actually every Monday night there's a dance class here for people who want to learn Norwegian and Swedish country dance. So don't worry, we're always keeping the dance in mind. I only learned, I think it was a hambo. I think those were the only steps I got. Otherwise I can't really dance that well.
Yeah, but that's a huge thing, and I think now I can kind of play a bad drum solo in the Springer Cup. But yeah, in the start I attended a few folk music festivals, and the one thing was like learn the dances, try to dance, and the folk music scene in Norway is really good at including everyone. So I was just asking, hey, you want to dance with me? I don't know anything, but you can teach me. And I feel like I can probably dance, but I cannot dance. Yeah, and lately one thing as well, I've been really trying to learn the Norwegian tradition slåttetromme.
Yep. Okay.
Because that's like a military drum. And I'm really happy we were in the studio this other day. So slåttetromme is maybe going to be on the next record.
Hell yeah. Looking forward to it. And that's probably oh yeah, no promises. I'm not no promises.
See how we feel about it.
We see how we feel about it in a couple of days. We get the recording back. Yeah.
Oh god, that's the process, right? You record something you think is awesome, and then you listen to it like 3 more times. You're like, maybe not.
I'm pretty sure this will make it though. I can just speak for Dullum that he has this nerd gene that makes a lot of us have it, and it's a problem. But no. Hear me out. So he's got this whole book of notes, you know, and looking at all these subdivisions of these different rhythms, and just like was telling me about these different rhythms and like all the way you can play with left and right. This is major and minor. I didn't hear the difference, but it was. And so like he's really been working hard at it and like kind of behind closed doors a little bit, and then suddenly said, hey, let me play some slåttetromme and we'll see if it fits in the album. And he just goes in there and shreds it. So it's going to be cool.
Hey man, I get it. You know, I majored in music in undergraduate, like at college, and the same thing. You get like this. You collect all of the biggest music nerds, and then they get together on a Friday night. Some of them brings the weed, someone brings the beer, and everyone's like, "Hey man, what color is this chord sound like?" And it's just like that for hours. While normal people are out like in public, hanging out at a bar maybe on a Friday, all the musicians are in their apartment like, oh man, this chord tastes like ham or something like that. It's, you know how musicians are. So I would love to take this opportunity to tackle that question I had earlier, where at least when I was talking with Hoovendruven, there was this idea that the Norwegian scene has been a little late to opening up to more fusion of genres, just because it was always a little bit more timid when it came to like opening up the folk music to outside influences. So that's, I guess I'll stop the question there and just see, like, do you feel like that either is still kind of the same, or has it always been like that, or maybe has it not always been as closed off as people talk about it? Because I would love to hear the opinion of some Norwegians on how the actual traditional scene is opening up or has opened up to more influence.
Well, first of all, never believe anything a Swedish person says ever.
That's why I
especially about Norway. No, I'm just anyway. Well, so I think they have a point when they say that. I think Norway was very slow, where Swedes had, like, there were a bunch of these bands that showed up in the 80s, 90s, 70s in Sweden that have been active for a long time and were taken into the scene. I'm sure they met their resistance at some level, but that was probably the time where Norwegian traditional folk musicians were like testing even playing together in a way. Like, you know, you have spellemannslag with groups of fiddlers, and you have gammeldans band or with fiddle, bass, guitar, and accordion. But like then that's when they were testing like pulling flute and hardanger fiddle and just like stuff like that. And even then people were like, oh my goodness, this is like, but again, I have to just say that I'm young and dumb and don't know everything about this, but my take on it is that it's opened up more and more. There was a band called Gote. I think they're still active to some
degree. They actually they played at Midgardsblot 2019.
Cool.
Yep.
So they were, I think they were pretty well accepted in the folk scene as well as outside. But after them, there wasn't really that much. Valkyrian All Stars are loved within the scene. They started with kind of like party folk and then went into more of what we would call maybe visesang, or almost like what you Americans would call folk, or like there's been a lot of like fusion between folk music and jazz and contemporary music in the later years, more like lower tempo stuff, and a lot of really good groups. But until we showed up, I think the folk rock scene was not that strong. Which, yeah, but now there's more groups showing up. So yeah, I think we were a little bit behind, but there has been a certain amount of it. And I can only speak for ourselves that we have not met any like opposition like to our faith.
No.
We've just been like encouraged and like thanked for what we do, and like we get very positive feedback, and it means a lot coming from folks who I really look up to. I've been very small, so it means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely, for me as well. I was never in the folk music scene to start with, but now I feel like I can go to every folk music festival and know like 50 people there. So it's we've only been met with open arms.
Cool. Hell yeah, that's beautiful. I really needed closure on that conversation, because just like what you said, Mathias, when I was talking to Hoovendruven, the whole time we're talking, I'm like, they're Swedish. So I was really looking forward to asking you guys that, because when I talked to them about it, it sort of ended up on I think it's getting better. And so now all these months later, you're giving me some closure on, it is better. So
yes. It is definitely getting better, but it has been problematic. I'm sure of that. But I think the thing that Norwegian traditional, the Norwegian scene really looks for is quality, in a way. Like you need to do it in the right way. So if you're going to use the tradition, pay respect to the tradition, know the tradition before you then start fucking with it. You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
I think, I mean, people know me in the scene. I've been active for a very long time, so there's a certain amount of credibility to it. I
that
think. And
helps.
if you
Yeah.
listen to it, then like we're not really changing the melodies that much. Very seldomly we'll change a melody like, oh dear, there's no way we can play this with a band. Then we might change it. But otherwise, I'm usually pretty strict about like, yeah, no, we're going to do it like it's on the recording, which we can barely hear of a 80-year-old playing on a wax roll. So
That's the life of an ethnomusicologist, man. It's like, oh, I found this tune, 80-year-old on a wax roll.
this is the truth.
Yep.
And,
Yeah, because you remember on Fjellets Melodi, that's on our EP. It was Richard, the guitarist, who wrote that arrangement.
Yeah.
And you show him the original recording. He still can't like
recognize
the tune. Well, he's the one who's been arranging it. It had to go through Mathias to.
There's a lot of those tunes that need to be translated.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, so let's talk about the EP. What was it like? So, playing the stuff live is always very different from having to actually record it. And mixing, I'm imagining it was no easy feat mixing drums with hardanger fiddle, with saxophone, with heavy guitar, with bass. What was that experience like when you finally went from crashing on stage and creating this beautiful chaos into having to go into the studio and record it? I'm really curious about that transition.
So the way the record industry is nowadays, I feel like, is that you usually start a project, you record the project, you release project, then you tour. We were in a way lucky that we got to reverse that in a way where we made the music, started performed it a bunch of times, and then we were like, okay, now let's go into the studio. First of all, what you might not know is Kjell-Erik Eriksson, the fiddle player in Hovendroven, he's the producer.
Oh,
so,
hell yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. So what we did was that we took our live arrangement, recorded it, a high quality demo at Richard's home studio, and sent it to Kjell-Erik. And then we had every week for a month, or 3 out of 4 weeks, we'd have Zoom calls with him where he'd give some feedback, and we just all talk together about how can we make this arrangement more like recording friendly. And then after 3 weeks we had a result, and then we ended up in the studio in Halden, which is a small town on the border to Sweden, and Kjell-Erik met us there, and we lived in the same apartment for a weekend. We had 2 days in the studio, and man, we were so prepared. We had a plan, and we just recorded it all. And a huge shout out to our recording engineer and mixing engineer, Dag-Erik Johansson, who runs athletics, or he works at Athletic Sound at least. And this is funny, actually. We were in the Netherlands when he was mixing it.
Yeah.
We were playing a concert, and like while Dullum was like testing the drums, I was standing behind the stage with my noise canceling headphone listening to a mix. And like after our concert, we just went right to the hotel, sat on the roof terrace, and with our drinks, and then we're all listening to the mixes, taking notes, desperately calling Dag-Erik, and okay, so we want to do this and this and this and this. So that was a pretty stressful thing, but the result really turned out nicely. Carl Klaas at Öra Mastering mastered it. It was beautiful, beautiful artwork from Kenneth Lien.
I love the album artwork. That was the first thing that caught my eye. The guy with that's a fiddle, right? Yeah, the fiddle on the horse in the background. Man, absolutely beautiful. Stellar artwork. Yeah. That's
Kenneth Lien's work. He's a Norwegian champion of the jog harp 2 years in a row.
Okay.
And
cool.
Plays in a wonderful trio called Ebestaden. If you're aware of them, they're wonderful.
The name sounds familiar, but I've never actually sat down and listened to them. So I'll revisit them now with your endorsement.
Yeah, they played at Midgardsblot last year.
Huh, that means they're on the back of a shirt I have. I had this weird thing here because I was half working, half there for fun. I had to miss all of the day bands. I couldn't show up until 5 p.m. So, that's a big not regret, but every time someone says, "Oh, they played at Midgardsblot," and I had no idea, I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome. Glad I was working." So, when you guys were actually, I'm curious, do you guys have like a favorite track on the you guys might have different favorites, but it's pretty diverse, even though it's only 3 tracks. So I was curious what your favorites are between the two of you.
I don't know. It's kind of in periods.
Yeah.
Because one day I like that track much better,
Yeah.
and the other day I like that track. I think when we first released it, my favorite track was Renlandet from Åseral.
Mm-hmm.
I get to have a drum solo, so of course.
Yes. I had a feeling you were gonna pick the one with the drum solo.
Yeah, but it's like I think the arrangement of Fjell's melody is really fun, and it's really cool to play live as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Gammelvals is also such a different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like prog riff and stuff like.
Yeah.
It's like choosing favorites of your child is really impossible. It goes every week. I have a new favorite.
Yep.
Yeah, which one of your children do you like most?
Yeah, it is kind of like that, isn't it?
But I think your Rosal might be. It's such a driving tune.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Just because I would say there is a certain coherence between the tracks on the EP, but at the same time we were kind of focusing on showing our like breadth.
Yeah,
and instead
which
of,
you
like,
did very well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is not I wouldn't call it like, I would call it, I hope it makes people more, it's like an appetizer, the EP. Like,
Beautiful. That's
Thank
exactly how I would describe it. Yeah, yeah.
we want that, because that it kind of shows you what the album is going to be, and that's going to be a more like rounded like product in a way. Well, this is just kind of like a, hey, we're here, and like, yes, now we're on Spotify. You can check us out. Like,
Yeah. Hell yeah. I was curious, have you guys ever been to Midgardsblot, or like or is this going to be your first time?
It's gonna be our first time.
Are you guys intimidated at all?
Yeah.
Why is it all
mean,
the
who
face
wouldn't?
paint and all the pagan stuff?
I can't wait. It's gonna be so much fun.
Oh yeah.
We definitely feel like our music is could fit for many different types of festivals. We've played at student festivals, folk festivals, jazz festivals, but this is our first heavy metal festival, and we really hope that this will kind of like open a door into being able to play more face painted festivals and people with horns and stuff. I'm afraid that they might mock our headbanging, but otherwise, well, our problem is usually when you headbang, I think it would be more like like this.
Yeah.
Our headbanging is kind of like coordinated swaying, where we're like, that's what we do.
No, man, that's what we do.
If you see us play Fjell's Melody live, and we get to the halftime part, you'll see everyone.
Yeah.
Oh man, you're gonna fit right in, because that's exactly what happens at like a cut time section in any metal tune. Is just like all of a sudden it goes from like this to this disgusted face on like, oh hell yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, because we've had bands at Midgardsblot that were, I would say, even not softer. I don't know what the good word for it is, but I guess more acoustic, more folky, who do this folk rock fusion stuff, and people love them there too. So considering you've got, again, that Meshuggah loving guitarist, I think you guys are going to know exactly how to feed into it. Again, without promises, but from my experience, I think people are going to dig it. You guys are going to fit right in.
I think there'll be I think Rickard's guitar solos and shred will do a lot for that.
I literally have this image in my head of like, it's the fiddle, the saxophone, and the bass and drums, and it's like this folk band. Everyone's like, yeah, this is kind of neat. And then all of a sudden the guitarist's hair swings back and he just starts shredding, and everyone's like, oh, holy shit. And then that's when they're sold. Exactly what you said.
We better play it early. Well, we shout out to Richard for probably the shreddiest solo in folk rock history, if I may say so. I don't know. That was ridiculous arp sweeps in two voices.
So good.
harmonized solo. Yeah.
Oh, that is so great. It's just like I'm picturing like the guy from Tenacious D, if you guys are familiar with that, the guy playing the two-leg guitar.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, it's gonna be such a good time. So I guess I guess the last question I have for you guys before I let you go here is what this answer can just be as simple as I like to do it. But does this music have this way that you guys are taking this old music tradition and sort of like putting your own spin on it in a way that's like that you feel is more relevant to you or our generation? Like what does it mean to you guys, especially seeing how quickly you guys have picked up, which is really awesome? Like, have you had the time to like process like what doing this style of music means to you guys in terms of taking the music from where you're from, putting a different twist on it, and sort of seeing how people receive it? I always like to just ask that side of it, like, what does this music mean to you guys outside of it's fun to do, if anything?
Well, I think just embracing your tradition
Mm-hmm.
and still getting to play what you like. I've grown up with Metallica and
Hell yeah.
remember swirling on the floor to Enter Sandman when my dad played that really loud on our speakers. And then combine that with the traditional music, which I've come to love, and
Mm-hmm.
the way we can bring this to other people and share our passion for it. It's really great.
Cool.
It's
Yeah.
just like really fun to play with these guys on stage. It's like I live for this shit when we play on
Hell
stage.
yeah, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah. For me, it's like embracing the tradition and yeah, and playing the things I grew up with.
You know, embracing a tradition while also putting your own experience on it, right? Like
Yeah.
that's at least what I get is a lot of people I talk to who do the style of music that you guys do. Is it's just it's really hard to explain like taking this music that belongs to where you're from and then putting your own personal experience on it. And that way you sort of like add to the Matthias, I think it was you who said gumbo, like the gumbo of not just your culture but also of your own personal expression and experience. uh yeah, I find that really well put. How about you, Matthias?
Yeah. Well, I started dancing folk dance when I was 4 and grown up in a family where mom and dad played hardanger fiddle and still play hardanger fiddle, and so this has been a part of my life since I was tiny. So this is the music I know,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like my background. So it means a lot to be able to share that background, first of all, like with my bandmates who I've picked up and ran away with it. So it's that's that's super fun. So I mean, one of the goals is that everyone in the band has fun with the music and feels at home, but also just like it's so awesome to take these melodies that are so different from what you're used to hearing on the radio and then kind of translating it to the unknowing ear with the guitars and the rhythms that everyone knows, and like, yeah, it's good to show the music to a broader audience, and we just have a lot of fun with it too. Like if we didn't have fun with it, we would have like fallen off by now. But we
Yeah.
have joy on stage, which I think is contagious, and a very energetic stage show that we want to just be everyone's party band, so anyone can go see us and have a good time, and just want to see how far we can take it. See,
Hell yeah.
Dullum wants to play at Red Rocks. I want.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
dude. Hell
my
yeah.
play at Red Rocks.
I'm literally right up the road from Red Rocks. So when you
Yeah.
guys do that, I'll be there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yet I just barely missed seeing Heilung and Vardruna, who are two, those two big, like I like to call them
Yeah.
acoustic heavy metal, those big acoustic heavy metal bands play Red Rocks. I just missed it, but my buddy Matthias here got to go see him, and everyone talks about that being like the best show ever. And I was like, yeah, keep rubbing it in. I was just barely missed it. But yeah, man, Red Rocks, that's a crazy venue to play. Have you ever been there?
No, I only been to US once, and that's where when we visited the
Yeah.
US.
I'm not going to spoil anything for you. I really do hope that you get to not only see it, but play it, because it is such a cool experience, man. Yeah, that is so awesome. So, guys, it has been really awesome having you on the show. I don't get to have enough like folk rock musicians on here, among other things that you are. Always love to talk to you guys who engage with the traditional stuff while also putting a new spin on it that maybe speaks to younger generations, people our age, stuff like that. Um, really interested in what you guys are doing. I cannot speak highly enough of your EP Tre Dancer, and I'm really looking forward to the main course that you have for us in the hopefully near future. Really looking forward to seeing you guys at Midgardsblot. I mean it when I say that you guys are going to fit right in. And then, of course, looking forward to meeting you guys there. I've got my tickets. I'm going to be camping with all the other hippies that just smell like garbage in the wooded campsite. That's yeah. I still remember when I was gone for a week, right? When I came home and my wife picked me up from the airport, she was like, "You're taking a shit. You're taking a shower." She was like, "You didn't sit next to people on the airplane, did you?" I was like, "I did." So yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys there. I'm gonna follow up with you guys as Midgardsblot gets closer, because I definitely love to hang out with you guys a bit. So anyway, you guys have anything for me before I let you go?
Yeah, sure. Stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram, Gangar Band, and we're also on Facebook and TikTok. So if you speak Norwegian and like jokes, that's
really bad jokes.
Horrible jokes.
I was gonna say, is there a lot of overlap between people who speak Norwegian and people who like jokes? I feel like
no, we're a quiet people. We're all depressed now because of the darkness. But actually, so a large part of our humor is just what you'd call a dad joke. Tre Danser, our EP, the title is a dad joke because we have our signature dance on the stage, invented by guitarist Richard, and it's called the tree dance. And you lock your feet to the ground like a tree, you raise your arms like branches, and you blow in the wind. It's very easy to do, and we get people involved with that. So 3 dances, but also so 3 dances. That means the same thing. So it's wordplay.
New favorite bands just from that. I also highly encourage you to make people do the tree dance at
absolutely.
All the weird pagan hippies, they'll do it immediately.
I've got a joke for you, by the way. I did make one in English. Which French church are you not allowed to visit?
I don't know.
The Notre Spassing.
That was awful. He's leaving.